Welcome back to Life Be Lifing podcast. Today we're starting a series that might hit home for a lot of people, especially people who grew up thinking their childhood was normal until they became adults and started struggling in relationships. This series is called Love After Neglect. We talk a lot about trauma in the form of abuse, but today we're talking about something quieter, something that doesn't always leave visible scars. Childhood neglect, not necessarily physical neglect, not always violence, but emotional neglect. The kind where you had a house, you had food, maybe your parents even had degrees, careers, and stability. But emotionally, you were on your own. Your feelings weren't explored, your fears weren't comforted, your needs weren't really seen, and for a long time you might not even realize something was missing. Until you become an adult, and suddenly, relationships start revealing the wounds you didn't know you had. I want to touch on the misunderstanding about good homes really quick. One of the biggest misconceptions people have is that if someone grew up in a two-parent home or a middle-class home, everything must have been healthy. But that's not always true. Sometimes homes look stable on the outside, but emotionally they are disconnected on the inside. You might grow up in a house where feelings were never discussed, conflict was ignored instead of resolved, vulnerability was treated like weakness, achievements were praised but emotions were dismissed. And as a child, you learn something without anyone saying it out loud. You learn that your emotional needs are inconvenient, so you adapt. You become the child who doesn't ask for much, the child who figures things out on their own, the child who becomes strong earlier than they should have to. Let's call that the silent training of neglect. Children are always learning something from the environment they grow up in, even when no one is intentionally teaching them. A child who experiences emotional neglect often learns three major lessons. Lesson number one, my feelings are not important. Lesson number two, if I need something emotionally, I have to handle it myself. And lesson number three, love means surviving without being fully seen. Now imagine carrying those lessons into adulthood. Imagine walking into romantic relationships with those beliefs quietly living in the background. Let's talk about how it shows up in adult relationships. Adults who experience neglect growing up often develop patterns in relationships that confuse them later. Some people become overgivers. They pour everything into the relationship. They support everyone. They hold everything together. But deep down, they're hoping someone will finally pour that same energy back into them. Others become emotionally distant. They keep people close enough to love them, but not close enough to truly see them. And sometimes people swing between both extremes, wanting deep connection, but being terrified of it at the same time. You wonder why love feels so complicated. One of the hardest realizations for many adults is understanding that sometimes the struggle in relationships isn't just about the partner. Sometimes it's about the template of love we learned as children. Because whether we realize it or not, most people unconsciously look for love that feels familiar, even if that familiar feeling isn't healthy. So if emotional neglect was part of your childhood environment, healthy love might actually feel uncomfortable. Consistency might feel boring, calm might feel suspicious, and emotional closeness might feel overwhelming. This is the moment of awareness. The turning point for many people is the moment they start asking themselves difficult questions. Why do I feel anxious when someone truly shows up for me? Why do I overextend myself to prove my value? Why do I feel invisible even when someone says they love me? These questions can feel uncomfortable, but they're also the beginning of something powerful, which is awareness. And awareness is where healing begins. If any part of today's conversation resonated with you, I want you to understand something. Recognizing neglect in your childhood is not about blaming your parents. It's about understanding yourself. Because when you understand the roots of your patterns, you gain the power to change them. In the next episode of this series, we're going to talk about something that many people struggle with: how neglect teaches us the wrong version of love, and why so many adults spend years trying to earn love instead of simply receiving it. Until next time, take care of yourself. And remember, healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about finally giving yourself what you needed all along.